Welcome back, Hokie Nation, to this edition of TSL Today. Kyle Marshak across the way, Abby Nielsen behind the scenes, and I'm Carter Hill. Welcome back to the second segment. Let's start off with Virginia Tech women's basketball. 61-59 winners over number 22 North Carolina last night in Chapel Hill, the Liz Kitley legacy game.
Dude, if you want to talk about anything other than Liz Kitley right now, you are insane. She has been nuts. And we were talking with Chris before that recording, right before this, and there might be a shot. Now, this is speculation right now, but because of that COVID year, that she could come back for another year. And I think Hokies fans would love that. All-time leading scorer in program history right now, plus the buzzer beater. What else could you ask for?
Yeah, she trumped Asia Shepard last night, who is now, of course, with the Las Vegas Aces. She is now the program's all-time leading scorer, and then she had her moment at Virginia Tech. She put up 42 points in the first round of the NCAA Tournament last year, but the Hokies lost that game. This was her moment at Virginia Tech, and it was fantastically impressive. I was in Chapel Hill. I went with my buddy Tyler Katz, who does stuff with us for 3304 Sports. He's our sports director, and we were going crazy behind Tech's bench. Just one of the best spectacles I've seen at a game before, and I haven't seen Tech win at the buzzer in person in either the men's or the women's side in quite some time. It was fantastic.
Now, so Abby, if you throw the camera at me, because I have to tell a quick story. Now, I made a massive mistake, and I'll tell you guys this right now. I did not go to this game, but
yes,
I had the opportunity to do so. So let me break out this conversation super quick. Carter asked me 2 nights ago. He says, he knocks on my door, and I'm like, yes, Carter. He goes, hey, man. Hey, man, you want to go to North Carolina and go to the women's game with me? And I said, I got to help Abby edit our podcast. And you know, Abby struggles to do so. No, I'm kidding. And, so I had stuff going on. I said, 3.5 hours, and I haven't really slept that much this week. And, I just wonder whether or not the Hokies have been so good. I know it's the number 22 ranked Tar Heels, but it's like, am I even going there to watch a good game? I just didn't feel like, the Hokies will always put on a good show. Don't get me wrong. And the Tar Heels are a good team too, but I just figured the way the Hokies have been playing, there might not be a competition. I was wrong.
And you know what? As soon as Kitley hit that buzzer beater, I get a text from Kyle Marshak saying, quote, I should have gone.
Yes,
you should have gone.
That is true.
No, we had a great time. Well, and to your point, it was quite arguably, in my opinion, maybe one of their more impressive wins of the season, because in previous games, they had dominated Duke. They had dominated Florida State. They had dominated NC State. They had shot the ball extremely well, and they got off to such a fast start. That necessarily wasn't the case last night. They found themselves in an early hole, and they still found a way to win that ball game.
And I was listening to it solely on the radio because I freaking love Evan Hughes' voice. Evan, you are the GOAT. And he had a great call of the buzzer beater, especially. And, from what I recollected, first of all, the energy at Carmichael was fantastic. Second of all, I definitely recollected that it was one of those stretches towards the latter half of the game where they were giving the ball to Kitley, and it's because she was not missing. And when they inbounded it to her, I was like, she's about to hit a mid-range to just absolutely drill this game. And sure enough, she did.
Oh my gosh. It was the perfect play. David Cunningham was in here earlier, and he tweeted out something where he was listening to the Kenny Brooks interview on the Virginia Tech Sports Network with Evan Hughes and Mac McCarthy. And he had mentioned that was Sean Poppy's play. And Sean Poppy is the former associate head coach here. He is now the head coach at Chattanooga. And so he tweeted out something like, you got to give credit where credit's due. And Sean Poppy tweeted back and was like, hey, man, we call that set VT at Chattanooga. Like, it's up to y'all's interpretation as to who owns that play. But he gave credit where credit was due. They ran the decoy for Amor. I mean, they like, that's the thing, too. They had 5 girls. Well, not only that, with how much firepower Virginia Tech has offensively, they could have ran a play for all 5 girls on the floor to win the game. They ran the decoy for Amor. They bit defensively and left Kitley wide open to win the game. Tech 45% from the field, just 30% from 3, but they held the Tar Heels to 40% and 31% from downtown. Tech also out-rebounded Carolina 41-28. Kitley with 21 points, 20 points from Kiana Traylor, and 10 points from Georgia Amor. Tech really kept the Tar Heels out of rhythm offensively, and although they didn't have their best stuff although they didn't have their best stuff offensively, they hit shots when they needed to, and they did what they had to do to win the game.
The thing I like about their defense, I mean, they are a normal size team until you get to Liz Kitley. She's obviously very tall. And George Amore is your typical, one spot. She still had a block and a steal last night. Now, she will get a steal a night. We know that. But I think adding a block on top of that, now this is kind of a stretch, but I think adding a block on top of that, in the box score at least, shows you that she was a very good defender last night, but there's not really a statistical category to show you how feisty she was at the top of the key.
So the NCAA Tournament Committee, actually right before the game yesterday, put out their updated projections for the NCAA Tournament as to where teams would be seated at. Currently, Virginia Tech would be the number 8 overall seed. They would be a 2 seed in the NCAA Tournament. Of course, that means they will host. Top 4 seeds will host the first and second round should they advance. Currently, right now, if the Hokies go on the road, they beat Georgia Tech in Atlanta on Sunday, which should happen, and they avoid something catastrophic in Greensboro, that's probably the worst Tech can do. If Virginia Tech runs the table, and I said it on TSL today when you and I were doing the show on Wednesday, I said Virginia Tech would be my pick right now to win the ACC tournament. If the Hokies go on a run and win the whole dang thing in Greensboro, I don't think you can deny Virginia Tech a 1 seed.
Yeah.
Especially with how good the ACC is, too. Like, I think Virginia Tech, if they run the table, this is something I would run by David, and I'm curious to see, I would be curious to hear his take, but I think the Hokies would be a 1 seed if they ran the table. I think, barring they lose on Sunday, and Georgia Tech is not a good basketball team, barring them losing on Sunday and suffering a letdown, they've got a 2 seed locked up. They've also got the 3 seed locked up in Greensboro right now. They will be the 3 seed at the ACC tournament.
Yeah.
Notre Dame and Duke will be ahead of them because of tiebreakers and all that stuff. But Virginia Tech, I think the worst they can do right now is a 2 seed in the NCAA tournament, and I think if they keep winning, they could be a 1.
So I was going to ask you that Duke and Notre Dame, they do have tiebreakers over the Hokies.
Yes, yeah, so they're locked in as the 3 seed. They're locked in as the 3 seed of the ACC tournament.
Because I was going to say, I mean, they're only a game ahead, but okay. And that's still, we need a couple things to fall in the favor of the Hokies. All right. Regardless, though, that makes complete sense to me. For me, the ACC is the best basketball conference in women's hoops right now in the NCAA. There's no question for me. Personally, I truly believe that. I will live and die on that hill, but I don't think I would receive too much argument. So
no, I agree.
So to stack on top of your point, that makes complete sense because whoever wins the ACC tournament, guessing that they are already a ranked squad. So any of the ranked teams in the ACC, but especially those top 3 between Duke, Notre Dame, and Virginia Tech, any of those 3 win, I don't care which team it is, they deserve to be a 1 seed because they won the ACC. That is one of the best teams. They're already a ranked squad. If they had won the ACC, they'll have already developed a much stronger resume by that point. I think whoever wins the ACC is getting a 1 seed.
Yes, if it's one of those 3 teams.
If it's one of those 3, yeah.
Yeah, I would pick Virginia Tech to win the ACC right now.
I think that's a fair take.
Because, again, they didn't even really play their best basketball last night.
Yeah.
And they still beat a top 25 team on the road. So it's just one of those things too. And North Carolina's been such a, I wouldn't say thorn in their side, but they played so many games so back and forth over the years. The ACC tournament game last year in Greensboro, which the Hokies won in overtime. The game in Blacksburg earlier this year, and now the game in Chapel Hill. For Tech to play subpar basketball and go down to North Carolina and beat the Tar Heels on their home floor says everything. So I think if the Hokies went out, they're a 1 seed in the NCAA tournament.
My final point, because you and I saw it last year in Greensboro, the thing that does, I'm not going to say stinks, because Greensboro is a great location and they run it well and it is an awesome experience. I recommend to anyone in the North Carolina and Virginia area, go to Greensboro for the women's basketball tournament. Carter and I had the most fun we had ever had covering any event. It was so much fun. And the reason being is because the Wolfpack travel well. They travel really well, Carter. And it basically turns into an NC State tournament there. Now, this is not the same NC State team that we have. And I get that can be argued, and that might be a little, I don't want to say homerish, but, but my point being, if there's any team that isn't, I believe NC State's not ranked currently, if I'm not mistaken.
No. They lost to Duke last night.
That was the one team in that stretch of games that Virginia Tech was playing that was supposed to remain ranked and did not. But still, they were ranked at the moment that they played them. Yeah, my point being, NC State can take over. Like the ACC is just so fun to watch. And honestly, to me, outside of Virginia Tech, the NC State Wolfpack, I'm totally going on a tangent.
Yeah.
Has the best fan base, and Greensboro is their spot to take over during the tournament time. So if there's any team that's a dark horse for me, it's NC State.
Carolina will show up too. There'll be a lot of Carolina.
And Duke travels okay too.
Not like Carolina.
Not like Carolina
State,
or NC State.
No.
But then, I mean, that's the thing. You have Wake Forest, Duke, North Carolina, and NC
but
State
does Wake
all
Forest
right
have
there.
fans?
I mean, it's a small school.
No, I love the Deeks. I have a good friend that goes there. All right, let's flip to the men's side of things. Virginia Tech, they're going to Tobacco Road this weekend as well. Although they'll be at Cameron Indoor Stadium, the Hokies and Blue Devils, on Saturday night at 8 o'clock on ESPN. Speaking of, the women, 4 o'clock on the ACC Network at Georgia Tech on Sunday. Don't want to forget about that. Yeah, the Hokies seeking just their second win in program history at Cameron Indoor, the last one being in 2007. What do they have to do to get the job done in Durham?
Hunter Couture.
Okay.
That's my 2-word answer. Hunter Couture shot the lights out. He was a deadeye against the Devils in Castle. Now, we have to look at it realistically, right? We can't ask Hunter Couture to put up the same type of performance twice in a row. We just need guys to hit shots. If there's going to be someone that I would like to be a surprise performance, I have began to really enjoy. Now, this is not going to sound correct whatsoever because this is not necessarily in his skill set yet. I've really began to enjoy watching MJ Collins at the 2 spot as a catch and shoot guy. He heated up and you saw improvements just a tad bit in that last game where you felt like you could kick the ball out to him and he would drill the shot. His shooting is clearly improved in just a matter of starts. So that's where it starts for me. You just have to have guys who can shoot the ball well from deep.
So these two teams met earlier this season. Virginia Tech 78-75 winners in Blacksburg on Big Monday that improved them to 2-7 in ACC play. Kyle Filipowski, 29 points that night. No one else in the Blue Devil lineup scored more than 10. Tech shot 57% from the field, 52% from 3. So yes, it seems like Virginia Tech, they're going to have to shoot the ball well to win this game and probably limit Kyle Filipowski down low.
And the cool thing about Flip is he's one of those guys, weird comp. He's one of those guys like Liz Kitley who has the vision once people start guarding him well to dish the ball out too. That's what makes him dangerous. Not to mention just the size of the Duke lineup. They rebound better than most teams in the ACC. And so it starts with that. I think they just need to utilize their size more. That's where Duke went wrong when the Hokies miraculously snapped their 7-game losing streak against the Blue Devils in Castle last month. They just got to use their size because rebounding is something that the Hokies are average to below average in the ACC right now.
Well, they'll probably need a big night from Grant Basile as well. 12 straight games in double figures. Prior to the Miami loss on Tuesday, he had scored above 20 in 4 straight and 6 of the last 8. Kyle Filipowski averaging 15 points a game for Duke. Jeremy Roach at 12.7 and Tyrese Proctor, their starting point guard, at 9 points a game. So the Hokies finish up with Duke at Louisville next Tuesday. We'll be there at the KFC Yum Center. And then Florida State at home. Just trying to finish off the season, the regular season, on a good note now, finish off 3-0. In all likelihood, Tech will play, unfortunately, on day 1 of the ACC Tournament in Greensboro. But should they win that one, they should have an interesting matchup in round number 2. Kyle, it's been a pleasure. Thanks so much.
Hey, dude, thanks. And I'm still looking for my glasses if you've seen them anywhere.
Yes. Hopefully we'll find your glasses. Thanks to Chris Coleman for hopping on in the first segment, our lead analyst and columnist. Kyle Marshak across the way. Abby Nielsen, second podcast you're producing today? Second?
Abby, you did great.
Second. Thank you so much. We appreciate you. We got much to talk about next week. Hopefully it will be a good weekend for the Hokies, and that talk will be a fun time, and on the baseball and softball diamonds as well, with both squads in action. Thanks so much for tuning in to this edition of TSL Today. We thank you so much. Have a great weekend, everybody. Go Hokies, and we'll see you next week.